Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ms. Chandra, for giving me the opportunity to present my views over here. So, in fact, if I go per the sequence, the topic that was given to me is CDM subsidy to fossil or a leapfrog to technology. Already, you would have in the morning you saw two distinguished speakers give you a overview of what CDM has contributed or the various status. So, I'm cutting short on my presentation because I do not want to overburden with a lot of data that has already been presented, and you could have it from different sources. However, I would like to give a perspective from the manner in which we see the fundamentals of a market-based mechanism getting adopted towards putting in influence of technology for sustainable development. And one of the mechanisms that we have widely discussed about is clean development mechanism. There have been certain merits and demerits that have been placed in front of you for your evaluation in the morning. In my presentation or in my discussions I would want to give our overview of how we see it. Now, first, looking at an overview and what is clean development mechanism, just moving our focus away from clean development mechanism for a minute and see in the overall map where does clean development mechanism actually spin. Go back to the year 1992, the United Nations Framework Convention is formed. What is the basic principle of it? Irrespective of an abatement, irrespective of a reduction in GHG gases coming in either in US, Europe or India, the effect globally is going to remain the same. However, to reduce 1 ton of carbon dioxide in Europe versus to reduce 1 ton of carbon dioxide in Bangladesh or to reduce 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent in Maldives is going to be different. How we are actually going to achieve it and how we are going to arrive at. Various subsequent COP meetings were held, and what is the focus of agenda for this seminar is the COP 17 and what is going to be discussed in that. But taking into history on what is the fundamentals of this was a scientific principle that was evolved. Based upon it, project-based mechanisms were also formulated as one of the means to counter the climate change that is happening. What is market-based mechanism? Market-based mechanism is on one side we have got polluters, on the other side we have got projects that can effectively result in reduction of these carbon dioxide gases from being generated in the environment, or broadly so the GHG gases. As people from media, you would have of course covering up other dimensions on climate change other than just the GHG gases, which include your Montreal Protocol also, which way back saw considerable success. And we are in chapter 2 when we are trying to attack the GHG protocol. Years back, the hot topic on the paper was ozone depletion because of ozone depletion substances. Can I understand, has market-based mechanism eventually led to the reduction in ozone depletion? Has it taken time? Anybody? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it has happened. We are in chapter 2, we are not in chapter 1. We have already seen a success related to market-based mechanism where the world would have been encountered with the fact of ozone depletion substances. They have been considerably wiped off from the face of the environment just because of the fact that there were incentives involved as far as reduction is considered. So where does it come from? In the morning presentation, you heard a gentleman from our government authorities stating that 90% of the so-called steps are being taken in by the private sector. Does the private sector move without an incentive? No. Let us have a mechanism of carrot and stick. It works. It has worked right from schools that we see right down to the industry. And let us see where we are as far as CDM is concerned in this entire block. So I'm again getting back to the year 1992 when the world came together. They formulated a body called UNFCCC and came up with the fact that there is a scientific phenomena that is taking place, and it is because of anthropological activities. Until and unless these anthropological activities are countered in such manners as is befitting, there will be catastrophic effects. And where are we now? We are in year 2011. We are in stage 17 of these talks, and we have seen certain merits and demerits getting arrived out of these mechanisms that has been put into place. What is cap and trade mechanism? What is the fundamentals of the entire market-based mechanism. It simply operates on the phenomena that the industries or the projects that are generating certain emission reductions, or what are these, are helping in reduction of the GHG gases, get incentivized. And this incentive, the price of this incentive, whether it will be $0 or $100 or tomorrow $1,000, is decided by the market. If there is an oversupply, the market crashes to zero. If the projects are mired and these are fictitious credits getting generated across, do you think that the market could observe that? There would be a value to it? We're just working on a simple phenomena. I'm just laying the background over here that we are moved ahead from year 1992, where we have discussed market-based mechanism. 2 or 3 project-based mechanisms were evolved. One was CDM, the other one was GI. It is not that we are just talking about CDM mechanisms. We are talking about Kyoto Protocol, which does not just include India, but we have got, of course, representatives from other countries. Maybe people from Bangladesh would have carried some stories about the MSW projects in Bangladesh, which is resulting in considerable decrease of methane, avoidance of methane. People from Malaysia and Indonesia would have considerably described about the methane avoidance, especially in the palm oil sector. Or there could be sectors in which phenomenal increase has taken place in India. We see Tamil Nadu accounting for the largest amount of CDM projects, as Mr. Bose pointed out in the presentation. Why is that? Because there is considerable wind potential available in that region. You've got various numbers of wind projects coming in over these areas. Again, focusing our energies towards how this has evolved and where it is presently, and then coming to the topic of whether there is technology influx that has taken place in the entire field of CDM. Kyoto Protocol and the commitment of the Kyoto Protocol, which presently runs between the year 2008 to 2012. We have already seen what sort of price the reduction in GHG emission it seems to target. But are there other emissions trading schemes running parallel to it? Is the world only countering the climate change issue by the mere use of Kyoto Protocol? In parallel, as we speak, just about last week, Australia passed a resolution that they will be introducing the emissions trading scheme in Australia starting from year 2015. As we speak, China is contemplating a domestic trading scheme in its 10 states starting from year 2013. As we speak, European Environment Commission is voting, and possibly the results will be out later today, upon a GHG emission reduction target of 30% rather than a 20% reduction from the level of 2005. So are these efforts isolated? The first question to be answered is, are these questions isolated? Is CDM evolving as an isolated mechanism? No. It is evolving as a successor to the various rounds of development that has taken place and the different success stories that have been created across in the past. Of course, just like every evolving process, CDM is also going through its process of evolvement, where you are distinguishing some of the projects which could actually qualify for the generation of credit versus from the projects which may or may not, or there is a requirement of certain process changes that needs to be adopted. So this is one element on how historically it has taken up. One aspect is that CDM, which started as a project-based mechanisms to generate the so-called emission reductions, which are called certified emission reductions, to be tradable instruments that can be put across to the market, and for the market to decide the value of these credits. Would it be 20 euros? And coming from my experience, I have dealt and transacted carbon for over 4 years now. I have dealt in carbon for more at 21 euros a ton to even 6 euros a ton, and presently at 6.8 euros. But there are various factors that affect the price of the carbon, including the aspect of demand and supply. But we need to understand that these market-based mechanisms are evolving because of an understanding that there has to be a mechanism of an reward and punishment that has to be placed in on the industries and on the contributors towards both the reward and the punishment. This has to be done in a phased manner. The first initiative was taken in by the European Environment Commission way back in 2005, wherein the first phase of European Union emissions trading scheme ran between 2005 to 2007. As we speak, the second phase of European Union emissions trading scheme is running parallel to the Kyoto Protocol, and the first commitment phase under the Kyoto Protocol running between 2008 and 2012. As we speak, again, European Union emissions trading scheme is presently voting for the emission reductions of 30%, increasing the target and increasing their contributions towards this fact of market-based mechanisms. And as a prelude to it, we have got the Montreal Protocol, which is a success story. It took time, but however, results were achieved. Now, let us talk about the size of the industry. What dimensions has this reached? Has it only affected? There is a general understanding that goes that India and China, Brazil as well, and I go with Mr. Bhushan's statement on that, have been the major beneficiaries of the clean development mechanism, in which substantial companies have been awarded these carbon credits, and they have found values, and this multiple number of projects would come about. But other than that, this has also percolated way across to countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, though countries like Maldives could only selectively cater to the requirements of maybe bagasse-based industries or sugar-based industries, wherein economies like India and China offered a range of projects that could be taken up under CDM. That could be your renewable energy projects, including biomass, biogasification, wind power projects, two larger projects like supercritical, like large hydro, like HFCs, and like N2Os. Unfortunately, most of the larger projects seem to be mired under controversy as now. Some have merits to it, some are debatable. However, this has been the story so far as India is considered. Now, let us understand on the second aspect who are the investors in this so-called project, and let us look at the players at the background. When we talk about the policy aspects or the 90% industry participants which are putting up these CDM projects. On the seller side, we have got private sector companies, mostly in the sector of renewable energy, energy efficiency, and projects like what are called program POA projects, which I'm sure my friend Manu would be discussing in his discussions later on. That would include a set of community-based programs like biogas projects, which could be good examples on how it can affect the lives and livelihood of different people, as well as involve technology, as well as incentivize the basic promotion of carbon incentives being available to projects. In simple terms, across India, we have got an agrarian economy. In this agrarian economy, you've got one of the projects that we have worked on is small to a household having one or two buffaloes and cows, which are who can put up the farmers could put up a small unit of which is biogas run, and these biogas units could eventually lead to generation of these carbon credits. The repayment of the loan happening through the selling of these carbon credits across to these farmers. So there are, I would say, across spectrum, if we speak, there are multitude. If you look at stories, there are multiple stories, success stories within CDM. The success of the wind sector in India can be largely attributed to two aspects. One is accelerated depreciation and the subsidies that were provided by the government. But of course, CDM benefits have largely contributed to the fact that even though the projects are performing at a very low PLF factor, still you see certain viability coming into these projects purely because of the carbon revenues that are involved. Had these been standalone projects, so it is a mix of stories in which certain projects have gained better benefits out of CDM versus certain projects which could be partly attributed to the fact that how they did their financial structuring related to the sales of carbon that got benefited because of carbon. So one was the history, the other one is the market contribution. Presently, the carbon markets are about $120 billion size, which is increasing. As we speak, of course, the major contention is whether this commitment period, which is presently expiring in the year 2012, should be expanded beyond the year 2012. What sort of projects should be included in it? What sort of projects should be excluded? What have been our experiences as far as CDM is considered? How to separate the grain from the chaff and check out projects which possibly would to the understanding of that time, year 2005 or year 2006, were supposed to be generating GHG, were supposed to be beneficial for GHG emissions, but presently not. So these are some of the questions that definitely are being discussed across.
Birjnendra,
Yeah.
what they would like to listen from you is the kind of due diligence a consultant, makes when they are into CDM projects. Okay.
I can come to that on how do we work across, but the bigger picture is more important to be noted that as I mentioned and I'm stressing that CDM is not the isolated mechanism that is operating as far as market-based mechanisms are considered. Historically, there have been a slew of market-based mechanisms that were adopted to attack to different issues and they were being successful.
Or your recommendation if there is a reform required in CDM?
As we say, again, I'm coming to the aspect of appreciate and there might be time constraint, but let me read out like to your question on certain benefits and which will be concerning to the topic of technology transfer. I'm reading out from the report published by UNFCCC this year on the technology contribution, because if you talk about remember year 2001, India was a different story. China was not that much evolved economy. It required technology. India also required technology, and so do many developing countries at the moment. We've got colleagues from Sri Lanka or Maldives that are representing in this forum. And I would say that what India was perhaps in year 2005 in the development cycle, perhaps these countries are at that stage where technology would play a very predominant role in the putting up of establishment of such projects that can yield to sustainable development, including the benefits of carbon coming across to these projects. And I quote from the UNFCCC report over here that overall 30% of all projects in the pipeline, accounting for 48% of estimated emission reductions, involve technology transfers. And by technology transfer, I don't just mean supply of equipments. I mean supply of know-how, the supply of day-to-day running of these projects, and in a manner that the technology could then be replicated across to these economies. The involvement may be as high as 44% of all projects, given that 24% of the project design documents do not specify whether the technology transfer occurs, and survey highlights suggest that 60% of these may be in fact involve technology transfer. So I'm just highlighting that out of all the CDM projects that have been registered till now, you've got considerable number, over as high as 48% of it requiring technology transfer. So the development that we see today can be ascertained to the fact that there were CDM benefits that were proposed across, and there was actual technology transfer that took place from the developed economy to the developing economy, which is now getting replicated. The simple example that I put it, the implementation cycle time for a wind power project in India would perhaps run to about 12 months, which is cut short to about 3 months erection period. The sort of wind turbines that you used to see, perhaps of 0.25 megawatts or 0.5 megawatts, can today be talked about of 2.1 megawatts each, resulting in considerable decrease of investments and use of better technology involved. This could be in energy efficiency measures as well. And as we speak, technologies like geothermal technologies, which might be the domain of Sweden or Denmark or the Scandinavian countries, could then be replicated to countries like Indonesia. Or the methane-based avoidance projects or the gasification project. I'm happy to convey that we have ourselves commissioned a gasification project in Sri Lanka just recently. And it would not have been possible if the measures had not been taken for technology transfer to have happened from a developed country. So overall, I would like to state over here that through CDM there have been an influx of technology transfer that has happened, and we expect that in the present round of talks that will be held in South Africa, it should be a closely watched parameter, that people are overtly talking about continuation of the the commitment period versus is there any talk taking place over the technology transfer issues, how this will be addressed, who will be investing, because last time we had met in Cancun, the COP16 had stated that there will be $100 billion fund that will cater to technology transfer related issues. For transiting economies, it is very essential that there is the know-how and the technology gets passed on to the present state of projects that will be developed. Mr. Pushin, to come to your question on what sort of measures are being taken. So, I'd like to address some of the issues that you had highlighted. One was related to solar not getting CDM benefits versus some other projects getting. I'm happy to announce that, maybe if we have been following certain briefing by UNFCCC, the cycle time for the registration of a solar project could now be reduced to 8 months versus for about 24 months that is there applicable for the projects. We ourselves, and I'm very happy to say it again that Emergent Ventures has been the first company to register a solar project in India.
Under National Solar Mission, the project
was? All projects are under National Solar Mission. You have a Mozambique project that has been registered recently.
That is not under National Solar Mission. Sapphire.
Yeah.
That is not under National Solar Mission.
What I'm saying is that there are changes that are happening as far as solar projects are considered. As far as UNFCCC CDM Executive Board is concerned, now it is pretty much possible to possibly register a solar project in about 8 months of time as a standalone POA. As far as measures that a consultant or DOEs are designated operating entities which act as validators and verifiers for the validation of projects. Of course, it is a process that is ongoing in nature. There could have been isolated incidences of certain checks being put into place, and the verifiers may or may not be, clearing those checks. So there have been continuous steps that are taken, not just the DOE that you mentioned. There have been continuous rounds of DOEs that have been suspended from time to time. In this suspension, essentially checks have been conducted over their processes, whether the adherence to these checks have been made or not. And I feel the executive board has ongoingly made considerable changes in the sort of changes that are required. So the projects that were possibly getting registered in 12 months' time, today take a cycle time of 36 months to get registered. Our own ministry, Mr. Bose is there for a host country approval. I think the cycle time that would have been some 3 months earlier is close to over 6 to 8 months right now. So there are changes that are taking place.
What does a DOE do?
DOE is like your auditor, like your financial auditing is taking place by a financial auditor. Similarly, a designated operating entity is appointed by the UNFCCC who conducts checks that all the parameters that have been given down in the documents that have been furnished by the company stand to the procedural requirement of the UNFCCC or not. It is based upon their recommendation that the executive board of the UNFCCC takes a call whether the project should be registered or not. And subsequently, the verification also takes place in the same route.